Thank you for coming back. Again, I'm Paul Chartier. This is Heart of Gold, American Diabetes Association. Whitney Sampson, volunteer, and you've got diabetes.
I do.
And Larry Smith, a long-time volunteer, committee member, board member, nationally known in the diabetes world. And it's funny, Larry, Lexington, for some reason, maybe because of you and other folks, is the center of the universe for diabetes?
Well, it seems that way sometimes.
It does.
When we go to some national meetings, and myself is there, and Stuart Perry is,
Yes.
we were both former national chairman of the American Diabetes Association, and a number of doctors and health professionals have won national awards, people in Lexington. So I think there's a high incidence of diabetes in Kentucky, and Lexington serving southeastern, south central, and far eastern Kentucky. There's a lot of specialty in diabetes in this town.
Who would like to talk about, for the people that don't know, what diabetes is, level 1, level 2, and how it manifests itself? And
I'll start. I'll talk about type 2.
Okay.
The reason I got involved in the American Diabetes Association is that when my oldest daughter was 12, she was diagnosed with type 1. And we didn't know the difference between type 1 and type 2. So I'll let Whitney talk a little bit more about type 1.
Okay.
But in the epidemic of diabetes in this country, there's about 25 million Americans with diabetes. Of those, 90% have type 2, which we used to call adult onset diabetes. Unfortunately now, it's not just adult onset, it's getting younger and younger and younger. Teenagers are developing type 2 diabetes. Preteens are developing type 2 diabetes. A lot of it is related to the obesity epidemic, but some of it isn't. So that's where the growth in diabetes nationally is in type 2, and that's where the expense is and the healthcare cost. And a big part, the American Diabetes Association was at the table, as were the American Heart and American Cancer, when the Affordable Care Act was passed, known as Obamacare now, because we're the three biggest expense centers, I guess, for healthcare in this country.
so Larry, for type 2, what does someone do? Do they catch it? Is it heredity? And then what do they do to treat it?
Hereditary, it's more hereditary than type 1, which is a surprise to some people. You should get your blood sugar tested, every year you should get a physical, especially as you get older, over past 40 or 45. And if you have a history of type 2 in your family, you should probably start a little earlier. And usually your blood sugar, starts creeping up. And at some point, the doctor should tell you, hey, you have prediabetes, which means if you go in for a fasting blood glucose test, you fasted since midnight and they take your blood sugar, and it's between 100 and 126, you have prediabetes. At that point, your doctor should tell you, well, you need to exercise more, you need to watch your diet, and you need to lose some weight. You don't have to run a marathon, you don't have to get to 160 pounds, but you need to lose 3 to 5% of your body weight. And if you walk a half an hour, 5 days a week, you'll go a long way to never developing full-blown diabetes.
Whitney, what's type 1, and when did you find out, and how do you treat it?
Type 1 is basically your pancreas shuts down. It doesn't produce insulin for your body anymore, which then increases your blood sugar. At that point, a person would need to start taking insulin shots and, of course, checking their blood sugar on a regular basis. I was diagnosed when I was 7 years old, and I remember my brother is also diabetic, and I remember when he was diagnosed, it was a big change for our family. But when I was diagnosed, I didn't really realize all the effects of diabetes on my brother and my sister, me, my mother, my father. It really affects everybody in the family, whether they're diabetic or not. It's a daily struggle. It's livable. It's something that you can control. There are days that you will have that you wake up and you wonder why your blood sugar is so high, and it can be frustrating. But but it is livable, and it is something that that people can live a healthy lifestyle with.
How many times a day do you get your blood?
On average, it's probably 4 or 5 times a day. Some days more, some days less. Generally not less, but on average 4 to 5 times a day.
And how do you treat your diabetes?
I take what we call regular insulin or fast-acting insulin at mealtime. So anytime I, breakfast, lunch, dinner, if I have a snack, that sort of thing, or if my blood sugar happens to be on the higher side, I may have to take an additional shot for that. And then once in the evening for what we call a long-acting insulin, and then that will last through the evening and then throughout the day as well.
And you give your shot how?
Generally, I try to move it around because, as many diabetics will know, you get a lot of spots where you have to, if you've taken your shot in the same place, it just creates a pocket, which isn't good. But so I try to rotate it. I can take it in my arm, I can take it in my abdomen, I can take it in my legs or in my buttock. So it's you just have to switch it around, and it varies. I can take 1 or 2 units all the way up to for my long-acting 35 units. So it varies quite a bit.
And is it a shot?
It is a shot, yes.
And
yes.
how much
an
is
injection?
Is it a full vial?
Oh, you mean that the medicine actually comes out
Yes.
of? Well, they do have vials. Right now I'm using a fancy pen, which just automatically it clicks. So it automatically gives you the correct dosage once you turn it, and so they're coming up with a lot of great things that make living with diabetes a lot easier, and that's one of those things.
Can you feel something coming on? Like is there such thing as an episode?
Yeah, it can be referred to as an episode.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. The symptoms that I feel, I get shaky, I sweat. This is when my blood sugar is on a downward spiral, excuse me, and I have a tendency to drop things. I have loss of muscle control. And as my mother will contest, I get grumpy and irritable. And those are just some of the symptoms. There are many, and everybody has different symptoms. That one day my blood sugar could be 60 and I can't even stand up, and then on another day it could be 30 and I'm functioning just fine. And everybody has different. Everybody has their story that's diabetic and what their symptoms are and what they experience.
But what they usually can't tell is when their blood sugar is high. Or can you tell?
Yeah, I mean, I have symptoms of high blood sugar as well. I get real thirsty. Oftentimes, when your blood sugar is high, you'll have to urinate more often. I have like this almost what they call cotton mouth, where and that increases your thirst.
But not everybody.
Not everybody does.
Some people can have a 300 or 400 and not be aware of it.
Not feel it, yeah. And it all depends on where your set blood sugar is. If you constantly run at 200, you're not going to feel like your blood sugar is 200 because that's where it always is, even though 200 is a high blood sugar. The normal is between 70 and about 120. So, below that or above that, are the low and the high blood sugars.
We're going to give your website so people that are watching that want to know more, that might have symptoms and don't get physicals. And who would like to talk about your event that's coming up in November?
Well, I'll start and then you can jump in. Each year we have a gala. We used to call it a black tie event, but you don't wear black tie anymore. It's a little more informal.
Good.
And R.J. Corman of R.J. Corman Railroad is kind enough to let us use his hangar, which
Generous
is
man.
a very generous man, which is on Nicholasville Road, south of Nicholasville, on the bypass. And it's a lovely event. I think we're in our 11th year. Ann Thomas has chaired it all 11 years, and we've raised over $2 million cumulatively.
Wow.
And it's a fun event. Like I say, it's not black tie anymore, so it's a little more informal, a little more fun. Always good food, good drink. We have auction, live auction, and we have a great silent auction. You can spend an hour just looking at the items on the silent auction. But it's always fun, and it's November the 2nd, and anyone that's interested, can go to the website, and it'll direct you to Lexington, Kentucky, and whatever event you want.
You've been to the event, Whitney?
I have, yes. I volunteer at the event.
And getting tickets, go to the website,
Right.
call Angela Carlos.
Or Angela Carlos or Lisa
Okay.
Edwards. I think we're in the phone book, local phone book. If not, go to the website, and it'll direct you to the Lexington.
In the last couple minutes, type 1 doesn't sound like it's preventable.
Not yet.
Type 2, Larry, lifestyle, maybe foods.
Lifestyle plays a large part of it, but not with everyone. I have a friend, about your size, runs, jogs, he has type 2 diabetes. He weighed, he's 6'3", weighed 175 pounds.
So you never know.
You never know.
What's ever in you just can't figure
Right.
it out sometimes.
But if your family has a history, you need to check and be careful and go to the doctor and watch your weight and don't be sedentary. Get out and move around a little bit.
Move around, and what foods to stay away from to avoid?
The same thing as if you
Junk-
had a heart attack.
junk food, fatty
junk
food.
high fat, high sugar, just a healthy diet. You don't have to, they say, oh, you can't have, she's got diabetes, they can't have birthday cake. Well, Whitney can have a piece of birthday cake. She just can't have 4 pieces every day.
Well, just like anybody, right?
we're just
Moderation.
Right. It's all in
Moderation.
moderation.
And in the last 30 seconds, Kentucky is like exploding with this.
Right, there's
so
about-
let's rein it in.
400,000 Kentuckians have diabetes, and about a third don't know it.
So the money that you raise from your event goes to education and
Research and
too.
advocacy. We
Right.
advocate for people with diabetes that are prevented from working or whatever their case may be.
Larry Smith, Whitney, thank you for coming on to share your story. It's good that you can do that other people that are watching can relate to you, and hopefully will go to the website, call up Angela, come to the event, and maybe prevent some bad things from happening to themselves.
Right.
So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
Paul Chartier. This is Heart of Gold. We'll see you next time, and thanks for tuning in.